Hey, what's going on, everyone? Boylon here, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about the new Blitz changes now that we have the exact details. At least for this Monday's Mordo Blitz, and that's assuming this is going to carry over onto Thursday and potentially any new character blitzes. We have a brand new reward structure in terms of shard payouts, and the percent brackets have changed up a little bit as well. So this is what we're going to be talking about over in the first part of the video, and in the second part we're going to be visiting my spreadsheets where I've done some before and after calculations of blitz tiers and points from before the rework using Red Skull's blitz from last week and data from the Mordo blitz from just the other day to compare the differences in scores at the various tier levels. Then at the end of it all, we're going to wrap it up and ask the question, does this even matter? And, what kind of impact is this going to have on the overall player scores on Blitz? And will this change anyone's strategy to the game mode and what they do? But without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, and I'm over here onto the Blitz page here, and luckily we can still see the Red Skull Blitz, which was from ended Sunday. And so let's take a quick look here. For anyone that didn't know that they actually changed the Blitz reward structures, we can take a look at the old ones. So the rewards here for that. So in case people weren't aware, we're just going to go very quickly over the rewards here. So rank 1, 2 to 15, 16 to 100, and then the top 2,000, which was 85 shards here, and then they had 1 to 2%, 3 to 5%, 6 to 10%, and then of course 25, 26 to 60, and then 61 to 100. So when we go over to the Mordo Blitz, there's actually quite a bit of breakdown. There's a lot less, less brackets than I was looking for that word. There's less brackets than there were before. So, and the payouts are quite different as well, especially in the top 100. So make sure you look at that, the top 100, top 15, and top 1, or number 1. So we're going to go back over to the Mordo Blitz here and then compare it here. So if we go over to the, I've been doing a lot of blitzing already, as you can see, just to do some before and after, which I'll show you later on in the video. So we now have rank 1 to 100, and as you can see, it's 100 shards. And what's interesting is that it's also the same payout as the top 1%. So there's no difference between the two brackets, and they've completely eliminated, number 1, top 15, and then, and so on. So the only difference here between 1% and the top 100 is the 4th red star. And assuming that this carries over into the other blitzes, like particularly the Thursday blitzes and the new character blitzes, which will be quite interesting whether or not they keep the red stars. They've done this in the past with, I think, the anniversary blitzes and the Tadano Mac and Widowmaker blitzes in the past with, special event blitzes where they've offered red stars. But I think this might be the first time where if it's made permanent, then, it's nice for, perhaps newer players, but also older players who maybe got unlucky shard pulls and they want it. But, to go that hard for an extra 1 red star, which is essentially 50 upgrade tokens or silver promotion credits, I don't know if it's that worth going for 100. We'll have to see as these blitzes go on in terms of how much points realistically you'd have to get for top 100, but if it's anything close to what the point scoring were for previous top 100s, it's a lot, and you're probably not going to want to do it. But for the top 1%, this is quite interesting because, you're going from the old one, which was 55 for the top 2%, all the way to 100 for the top 1%. Now, top 1%, I think, from what I understand, is a glorified way of saying top 3,000. I think those are the sort of numbers that you need to score overall in Blitz in order to get in that top 1%. I think top 1 to 2% was like top 5,000, but I think the actual 1% portion might be closer to the top 3,000. So, if anyone knows better than I do, then feel free to correct me down below, but I think that's roughly the case. I have blitzed hard in the past, and I think that's sort of the numbers that I remember seeing. Now, the top 2 to 3% here, so this is the 55 shards, and this is actually very similar. This is the same number that you would get for top 2%. So you're getting a little bit more shards here. And then so 4 to 10%, you're getting 45. So previously that whole top 6 to 10% bracket was 35. So now you're getting a little bit more. Now after that though, it breaks down pretty much the same as it was previously. So 11 to 25%, I believe, was also 25 shards. And so it's not really much of a difference here. The only changes, of course, is that you're getting 1 to 2 red stars for a character if you really need it, or if you don't have it. But other than that, most of the changes here are from the 4 to 10% and above levels. And so this could be quite interesting going into a new character blitz, especially if they keep this structure. That 100 shards is quite a bit. So realistically, if you're someone who sometimes blitzes to the top 2,000, I mean, like I said, top 1% is probably going to be in the 3,000 range anyways. but if you were doing that, you're going to come out on top with more shards than before, because it would have been top 2,000 would have been 85 shards. So even if you were doing top 2,000, you're going to come out with a little bit more shards than you did before. And for new character blitzes, let's say you do that twice, you're still getting the 21 shards that you do from the milestone. So you would get actually 121 shards total if you did top 1% on each blitz. And if this is a new character, we'll have to wait and see, because sometimes, you know, second blitzes for new characters change. So I'm gonna hold my tongue on that part, because I don't want to say anything that might not be true. But at least for the first blitz, I imagine that it will use this structure. Second time around blitzes, I can't say for sure. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not it ends up being the same structure, or if they end up changing it. Because if you guys remember that the second time around on a lot of characters, they end up having mega orb fragments and things like that, and not always having the shards available, I think below 10% or something like that. You know, you have to score fairly high on the second blitz previously in order to get the shards for that. But we'll have to wait and see what it ends up being like. In terms of the milestones, at first I thought that we were actually getting more, because there's actually more milestones. There's like 20 of them in total, I think, here. And I think before it was 16 or something like that. It's still the same at 750k, but it seems like they've kind of adjusted the point scoring along the way, but you are getting a little bit less gold for each of them. So it actually ends up being the same. There's more milestones, but exactly the same rewards. So if you're a milestone and chill kind of blitzer, then don't worry about it. You're getting exactly the same as you did before. Now, what I am curious about, though, I'm going to mention this really quickly, is that, of course, because 100 shards is the highest payout, that does mean that if you are anyone that blitzes in the top 100 previously, I doubt anyone of those people are watching my video, but if you are, that definitely means that you're going to be paying more money if you want more shards, because this is the maximum payout for shards. So there's no way that you're going to be able to blitz more shards than that. And really, it doesn't even make sense to go in top 100, like I said, because you probably just want to stay in the 1% range, which is, like I said, 3,000 or so. So if you're going to want more shards for that coveted character, then you're going to have to pay, I guess. But for the rest of us who, you know, maybe do top 2,000 or top 2%, you know, this is a bit of a win for us, I think, in my opinion, because you're going to come out with more shards. And so if the structure stays the same, you know, that's 121 per blitz. Theoretically, you know, that's 240 over 2 blitzes for a new character if it stays the same. And that would be almost halfway to, just under halfway to a 5-star character, I think, if you were to do that. Now, if you were to buy the character on top of that, probably you would get awfully close to a 5-star unlock, which is pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, the changes are, I think, positive for me, but that's at least just from the shard payout perspective. Now, we need to go over into my spreadsheets where I do have the points, and we talk a lot about, I'm going to talk a lot about the differences in points when you're blitzing at the different tiers, and, you know, what the net, in this case, is actually a reduction in your point scoring, but we'll have to take a look and see exactly how that happens. So we're going to jump over there onto the spreadsheet. And I also do want to point out that I think that this is going to disincentivize hardcore blitzing and botting to some degree, because with the structures the way they are, there really isn't a lot of incentive to do more than this. Also keep in mind that there's an 8 rotation cap as well on how many free-to-play rotations you can do. So I think this was largely done to disincentivize botting, but we'll have to see what the real impact ends up being, you know, especially once we get around to a brand new character. So anyways, let's jump over to my spreadsheet and we'll take a look over there. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of numbers here, but we're going to go through it together. And for reference for this part of my spreadsheets, I did use 2 of my teams to serve as references for points and things like that. So my Black Order team, which is sitting at 474k, and my X-Men team, which is just around my head here, at 373k. Now, the reason why I chose these 2 teams is because these are the ones that I auto-blitz the most. They're 100% sure to win, and I have no problems doing the blitzes on them. So in terms of racking up blitz points is when I do blitz, normally those are the teams that I use. So I wanted to use these to compare some of the points that I get with them through different blitz tiers, and sort of comparing the before, which was at the Red Skull Blitz, and after, which is currently at the Mordo Blitz, and what the differences overall those points have been. So I took a lot of screenshots of my blitzing as I was going up through the tiers, both before and after. And it's a bit, the before doesn't have as much as the after, but that's because I was only focusing on the tier 8. And then when I looked at it now, the blitz scores were quite a bit different. So maybe I should have looked at all the levels to compare it more accurately. But anyways, so we're here at the Blitz 8 level. So this is 8, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 for the Black Order team. And these are the points that I accumulated for those levels. And, you know, not that this matters too much, but this is the enemy team power that I was facing at the time. I just wanted to write that down in case it seemed to be relevant later on. And so down here with the Phoenix team as well, so this is the before for the X-Men. Again, the same points. You can see sort of go, of course it goes up incrementally, you know, because as it does through tier 8. So this isn't super important here. But what is important, what's interesting, is when we go to after. So this is the Mordo Blitz here. And I did actually take different points from basically tier 6 onwards. So for the same Black Order team, you know, for this Mordo Blitz at tier 6, I was getting roughly 62k, 62.3k points, and then 6.3, it goes up incrementally. Now, why this is bolded is because this 7.3 is actually worth more points currently than what tier 8 and 8.1 is for my Black Order team. Now, these are the enemy teams here. I kind of reported this as well. Not super important, but the reason why this is kind of in the orangey red is that basically at 7.3 is when the enemy team power exceeds my own team power. And so I just wanted to just write that down just for giggles and see if that actually made a difference anywhere. So as you can see here, what's important here is through the tier 8 level is that you get 72k, and for some reason this dips, I don't know why, but it did dip a little bit, and then 8.2 went back up again, and then 8.3 was about 78k. Now that's quite a bit of a difference between 78k and 117k, or it's 117,500 from before. And so I did this in a difference. This is what the differences are, and that's why it's in red here. So this is the amount of points that I'm losing out on between before and after. So I'm getting this much less points before. Sorry, I'm getting this much less points now with my Black Order team at the same tier levels, and I did this in a percentage as well. So basically at 8.3, I'm only getting about 2/3 of the points that I got previously on my Black Order team. So I got 117.5k before, and now I'm getting 78k at 8.3. And so that's 66% roughly. I did the math there with the formulas, and it's about 66% of previous. So, and it ranges anywhere from 66 to 70%. Now, the reason why I did X-Men is because it's 100k less power than my Black Order. I wanted to see sort of, you know, using different team powers, how much that really made a difference to things. So as you can see, the same sort of thing, you know, it goes up 54k, 57, 58, and then 65. And then we go back down to 62.5, 63, and then 68, and then 72. So I did the same sort of math here, and of course it is less, you're getting less. The percentages are a little bit different though. So you are getting actually a little bit more from a percentage perspective from teams in the 300k range, it seems, than teams over the 400k. So you're not losing as much here. So if you notice, it's only 70 to 75% versus 66 to 70%. Now, why does that really matter? And I think that just means that you're not losing as much points from before and after if you're using teams sort of in the 300 to 400k range versus 400k plus. So again, what does that really mean? And that kind of means that the sweet spot, the Blitz sweet spot for points, I think now is going to be sort of in that 300k range, and you don't really need to push a team over 400k too much for the purposes of blitzing and scoring higher in blitz points. It's not going to make a significant amount of difference. The other thing I want to point out also is that the points difference between, you know, the tier 8 range, and we can take a look at the X-Men team here, there isn't a significant amount of points differences between, you know, we get 62.5k here and then 72k or so here at 8.3. Now if you look at tier 6, there's a fair bit of difference at 6 in the 6 range, but 7, not really. You know, 58k and then 66k, so anywhere from 58 to 66k. I didn't actually do the math here, but I mean, we can just eyeball it here. It's like less than, what, 10%, maybe a 10% difference between 7.3 and 8.3. And yeah, you know, that is a difference, but in terms of what you're doing when you're blitzing, does it make a huge difference? Maybe not too much. You know, if you're auto blitzing a lot, then it seems plausible that you could maybe even start at tier 7 and work your way up to 8.3, and if you lose, then, you know, whatever, and then you can start back up at 7 and work your way up again. And of course the battles are going to be easier, so you're getting only about 10% or so less points, but the battles are easier. So the reason why I had the enemy team power here is because I wanted to compare that. So, you know, this is a 373k team fighting, you know, basically an even matched team at 7, and then, yeah, what is that, an 80k punch up or so at 7.3. And so the difference with the team power from 7 to 8 is only about, what is that, 30k? So it's not a huge difference, both in terms of the enemy you know, you could fight easier teams in the tier 7 range, and the points is not too much different. So, you know, this might change some people's strategy on how they blitz, but, you know, I'm probably just I'm probably just gonna auto the same, but I don't think there's as much pressure to fight consistently at 8.3 as there used to be, because, you know, there's just a significant drop off in points, and the difference is at the lower levels, but from 7 to 8.2, so it's not a huge difference. So you don't have to force yourself to fight at 8.3 and consistently win at 8.3 if you don't want to. Now, I thought that they said prior to this that they were actually going to make adjustments to fighting in the tier 8 range. I thought I read somewhere something talking about that, like they wanted to encourage more wins or more, I don't know what kind of words they use, but yeah, I don't know if there was a huge difference in terms of the points were obviously changed, but otherwise in terms of who you fight and things like that, I don't know if I've really noticed a huge difference. It seems pretty much the same comparing to 8.3 now, which is, let's say here for my Phoenix team, 511k versus, you know, the enemy team's powers seem to be relatively the same across the board, so that hasn't changed. So I do have some takeaway points here, and that's down here. So in no particular order. So there's anywhere from a 25 to a 35% reduction in blitz score. 2, the enemy blitz powers look relatively the same across the board. I haven't noticed too much of a difference. Now, if this is much different, like, you know, below my X-Men team power, so anything below 300k, you know, please let me know in the comments if you notice something that I don't. There doesn't seem to be a huge difference in points from tier 7 onwards. My blitzing strategy might not change all that much. You know, if I'm going to hard on top 2, well, I guess now top 1%, which is probably going to be in the top 3,000 for newer blitzes, I'm probably going to blitz the same way as I did before. You know, I'm going to largely auto from tier 7 onwards with all my teams, with the exception of, you know, shaky teams that I probably need to play myself, which I'll do. Otherwise, it's not going to be much different than before. Everyone's being hit by the same changes as well. So everyone's getting, you know, a reduction in points across the board. So, you know, hopefully it doesn't really change the whole scheme of things all that much. Now, again, remember that there's an 8 rotation free-to-play cap, so no more blitz botting, maybe, you know, because there isn't really much incentive to do so. So that's about 16 hours, give or take, of blitzing in the day, which is a lot, not total consecutive time, but over the course of the day, you would need to do 8 rotations at 2 hours apart. Now, I wish that was, you know, I could smash them all out consecutively, but it's not, that's not the way they made it, so we can't do anything about that. And of course, there's a decrease in points. I'm thinking that maybe this might be to pave the way for ISO 8 and level 80, because that's gonna, you know, sort of increase the power, increase the points gained, you know, as we get higher power levels. So I'm wondering if they just kind of had to reduce the inflation of points so that things didn't get kind of crazy on the points level, but I don't really know. Maybe this might be something. And then again, team power, it doesn't seem to be a big dictator of points. So maybe 300k or so is the sort of sweet spot if you're trying to get as many teams possible for blitzing. You know, don't push one team well over 400k. It just doesn't seem worth it in the payout for blitz points. So if you want to get more blitz points, it seems more plausible that you'd want to get in the 250 to 300k range, you know, where you can reliably win, but don't need to really push those teams too much higher than that to, you know, get a good amount of blitz points. And those are my takeaways for this part and from previously, and I hope some of this helps. So let's jump over to the outro. So I think what's going to be important here is keeping an eye on the Blitz reward structure and see if it stays the same for Thursday's Colossus Blitz, but also for the upcoming Baron Zemo and Electro events, which I believe are both going to be blitzes. At least Zemo was confirmed to be a blitz, and Electro has that Swarm event tag, so I actually suspect she might be before Zemo, but we'll have to wait and see. What will also be important is whether or not the second round of new character blitzes keeps the same reward structure, and if they do, then honestly I think it's a positive boost to the players overall for those who tend to score in the top 10% range or so. Then you're without a doubt pulling in more shards than before. Since everyone is being slapped by the same decrease in blitz points, I'm not sure if it's going to impact people as much as they might think it is, but we'll have to wait to see when it comes to data tracking the blitz scores for each bracket. But I hope that some of this information helped you guys to think more about upcoming blitzes and how this might affect you personally. Which, unless you're someone who blitzes in the top 100, I think that this is going to be a positive change overall, but feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. And that's the end of my video, so if you found this informative, then please smash that like button down below and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And of course, feel free to join in the Discord as well in the description of the video to join in the conversation. But that's all from me, so until next time, stay safe everyone, and I'll see you all later. Boylon signing out.